Welcome to the Resonate podcast with Aideen. I'm Aideen Riada, and my guest today is Juliette Noske. You're very welcome, Juliette.
Hello.
It's great to have you here. Let me tell everyone a little about you. Juliette works in the world of personal development and transformation as an intuitive coach and spiritual mentor. She is a sacred space holder, teacher, and guide for both young people and adults. Juliette is a magical being and a shapeshifter. She supports people on their journey of self mastery as they awaken to their power within, where the gold is. And that's where I'd like to start today, Juliette, is this idea of self mastery, because I know that that's a big part of what you promote. And your podcast is basically about self mastery as well. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is. And it comes from my own journey of self mastery. I very much began in quite a dark place. When I was younger, I had a lot of challenges. And for me, it was this beginning to develop my self awareness, which was the key to the beginning of my journey of self mastery. And as I share a lot with my clients, I came from a very dark place, and I was able to see that light at the end of the tunnel from various people in my life, and different experiences that I had. So training in drama was very cathartic, and little things along the way that kind of showed me that light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, I guess if we look at what is self-mastery, I believe personally that self-mastery is a journey that we're all on, and it's not like anyone is above the other person. And when we're on this journey of self-mastery, you may fall down and I help pick you up at one point, or I may fall down and someone else helps me to pick me up. And we're all learning together. We might be learning different things, but yeah, we're all on it together. And one of the pillars in self-mastery is this self-awareness and becoming aware of what we're doing or what we're saying or how we're being. Because until we know something, we can't change it.
Yes.
And yeah, and so it's finding out what those things are that we don't know, those blind spots that we have. And when I was very young, I used to self-harm. I had bulimia, an eating disorder, at various, from my teenage years until my early 20s, I think. And when I was 16, I actually tried to commit suicide. And a lot of it was emotions bubbling up that I wasn't able to process, and things that had happened in my childhood that I wasn't able to deal with. You might call them, traumatic experiences. And when I became aware of, what I was doing and maybe, the causes of these things, then I was able to slowly over time change them.
I love the idea that you found some support through the creativity. And I'm sure there were people that worked with you at that time that could see you were struggling. How important is, that, self mastery sounds like a very solo kind of task. You figure yourself out. But I know myself, and I think we both know from the work we do that we all need help along the way. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I guess there were people along the way that helped me, and not all of them were professionals. Now a lot more professionals step in to support young people when they have mental health challenges and different things. But there wasn't that framework in place necessarily when I was young. I did see a couple of counsellors who were very helpful, and I remember one of them doing some art therapy with me actually, and something with some rocks or stones, and then some, you know, drawing different images depending, like drawing my emotions and things like that. But also one of my mum's friends, she was very instrumental because she was able to get to me when no one else could. And so, and then there was another thing when I remember when I was going to university, and I received this book. I can't even remember who from, and it's called Seth Speaks, and it's a personal development book that has different questions and references in it, and like a bit like a workbook in a way. And I remember that being quite instrumental in my personal transformation. And then another person was my now ex-husband as well, and he was he was very supportive and helped me, you know, to change and become aware of what I was doing and how I was behaving.
Wow, we're so lucky to have each other, you know.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, there are millions of things. We often think maybe it was just one thing, but there were millions of things that supported me in my journey of change. And another one of those was actually a program that I did. It was a long weekend program with Landmark Education, and it's called the Landmark Forum. And they get a lot of bad stick because their marketing is a bit kind of pushy, but actually the program itself and the teachings are really, really great. And during this 3-day course, I remember I had so many aha moments. And at the end of the course on the third day, I realized that who I am is love. And it was absolutely huge. And I was floating so much that when we went out for the last break of that day, my friend had to grab me because I almost walked into the road because I was so floaty, not kind of grounded, that I almost just walked into the road without, you know, thinking, because I wasn't in my body so much. But that was huge for me, having, you know, utilized various, you know, drugs and alcohol and things when I was younger to kind of mask and hide what I was going through. um, I now no longer did those things, and I truly became aware that I don't need anything or anyone to give me that love, because who I am is love. And that was one of those pivotal key moments that really stands out.
That's such an important realization, because a lot of the way that we relate to life and what we think of ourselves is based on what we identify as who we are. Um, Sometimes the behaviors that we have, like, you know, bulimia or something like that, that can become part of your identity. But when we identify with something positive, it gives us hope for the future, and it helps us to overcome some of the behaviors that are not positive. So I'm so glad that you had that realization, because that sets you up then to create a whole different kind of life.
Yes. And in fact, it was my self esteem piggy bank, as someone once said to me, that was very low. And so it was over those years, it was about me filling up that piggy bank and really beginning to believe myself, because we've probably all had someone in our life who we've said, you know, we've told them how amazing they are, we've told them how beautiful they are, and they just don't believe you. And that's because they have to first believe it in themselves. And my everyone thought I was really confident, and on the outside I was, you know. And when you said that people maybe must have recognized what I was going through, a lot of people did not have a clue. When I was at my college, and I got to go and see the counselor, um, most people that were in my close vicinity, in my inner circle, did not know, including my mother. And she was really upset about this. But I was very good at putting on a face and hiding it. that I was going through this pain and this suffering. And so my confidence looked great. And you find that in maybe famous people as well, where they seem very confident, but then they do something and you can see that underneath that, their self-esteem, their belief in their self is actually very low. And someone once explained, that my piggy bank, my self-esteem piggy bank was low, and that I could slowly, over time, fill up that piggy bank of self-esteem. And one of the key things that I did was actually an exercise that my mum gave me. And she said I had to stand in front of the mirror, looking into my eyes, my own eyes. We know the eyes are the windows of the soul. And I had to say to myself, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then you have to say pink, pink, and pink. So the pink, pink, and pink part is because that just makes you smile. And I remember saying to her, but I don't. And she said, just fake it till you make it. And I was like, I'm not fake. I don't want to fake it, And she said, well, act as if. So, because I was doing drama at the time, she was like, well, act as if, act as if that's what you believe in. And then slowly over time, you'll find that it becomes true. And over time, it did slowly sink into my being. And I remember, a couple of years later or years later, I'd be walking down the road and, you turn and you look at the shop and the windows there and you can see yourself in the reflection. And I remember going, hey, I love you.
That's the beauty of any habit, right? When we create a new habit, and it can take a little bit of time and it can take a lot of effort, but it's like a resource. It's something that you have again. What I thought was genius about this concept and this image of a piggy bank is it's about your value. When we think of a piggy bank, we're thinking of, money going in there. And every time you did that, I love you, I love you, I love you, that was a form of an investment in your own value. And as you filled yourself up, your value increased, you were appreciating in value. And this is a passion of mine, is to help people understand that they are a treasure and that they have value. So I definitely am going to steal that idea and start telling people, because it's a beautiful image. And yeah, that's, I've done that exercise where you look in the mirror. If anybody listening hasn't tried it before, it's very uncomfortable the first couple of times you do it. And sometimes you can look through one eye and say it and believe it, and then you look through the other eye and you won't believe it, because, the brain is so complex. The human brain is so complex, but the soul is much simpler than that. And that's what you work with, is soul. How do you help your clients to connect to their soul now, having been through everything you've been through?
Yeah. Well, before I go there, I just want to touch on this idea of programming the mind. And the soul contract is one of the processes that I do with my clients. But I'll come to that in a second, because one of the tools I use, or lots of the tools I use, come from NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro being the brain, linguistic being our language, and programming when you program your computer. Now, people update their iPhone, their Samsung, their whatever, well, you have to update some of them, don't you? Otherwise, nothing else works. And we update them so that they work more efficiently and they work in the way that we want them to, for the purpose that we have them for. And our mind is the same. So our mind, we can program our minds. And, yes, sometimes there's a virus in there that we need to maybe clear out beforehand. And those, there's various ways to work with those viruses. But reframing something and looking at it in a different way, or using different language, can help us to reprogram our mind. And when we're looking in our eyes, I like that how you say look through one eye or the other eye. And then also one thing I used to do was I used to imagine when I looked into my eyes, it was someone I love. Because when we look at someone we love, you know, when I say to my mum, I love you, I don't think of all the arguments that we had, or, you know, or the wrinkles on her face or her greying hair. I look into her eyes, into her soul, and I say, I love you, Mum. And that is what we're doing when we do this with ourselves, is we are looking, like you say, deep into our own soul and connecting with that constant presence that's always there. You know, I'm on the way to 50 years old now, but I feel like I'm a teenager because I'm connected with that soul within, which is eternal, which is pure presence now. And it doesn't have a number, it doesn't have wrinkles, it, you know, it doesn't have the grey hair. It is this pure presence. And so the soul contracts work that I do is it comes from something called the Moses Code, and it was downloaded. And basically, you look at someone's name, and it's the name as it's written on their birth certificate. So if you do any manifestation work, you know that writing something down creates a deeper level of power, of potency to something. And the name as it's written on our birth certificate is what soul contract reading says is our gift from our soul. And within that name, there is a code that when we explore into it can support us in knowing ourselves a little better. And it can help confirm things that we already knew, why we have certain repeat patterns that happen again and again. And it can also help us to see how we can work our way out of those repetitive patterns, or those, you know, move around over or through those challenges that we're facing in our life to be our fullest soul expression. And so the letters of our name get translated into Hebrew letters, which correlate with a number, which then you place around the Star of David. And then you do your calculations. If you're not mathematical, you can use the online program. And then it shares with you numbers that relate to your spiritual self and your physical self, and talk about your karma. So the things that you've come here to work through and learn, not kind of penalties that you've been given, but it's slightly different understanding of maybe some people's understanding of karma. Shares with you your talents and also your goals. And it's fascinating because the things that it brings to light is absolutely amazing. So one client, for example, they had a predominant 4 in their chart, and they'd always struggled with being a parent. When they became a parent, for some people it seems easy, you know, and for them becoming a parent had been such a huge challenge. And when you have this particular pattern in your chart, it's because being a parent is one of the lessons for you, and learning about selfless love. And that when you have a child, that love that you have to give to them, you have to, you know, you have to sacrifice a lot and have this huge amount of selfless love. And so this person within had kind of known that, but what the chart did is it brought a deeper layer of understanding, and then looking at, you know, what they can do to work through that and to become a fuller expression of their soul self.
Wow. I want one of those. So I know myself that I went through a phase where I just thought I wanted to understand my soul. I kind of had this vague notion what a soul was. I had my identity, I had the what I thought of myself, which I had started to understand was a very fluid thing, that what I thought of myself was changeable depending on who was around me and what kinds of things I was doing. And it's part of my personality to be a bit of a chameleon and be able to relate to people in many different situations. But I thought my soul is the thing that I wanted to figure out. And for me, I didn't find the Moses Code, unfortunately, back then. But what I did find was a book called Journey of Souls,
Mm.
by Michael Newton. And this isn't for everybody, but it does talk about past life and, the lives between lives. So when we're almost a soul choosing to come back and choosing to take on some of those lessons and choosing that moment of incarnation again. And if anyone's listening and is going, they've gone off the tracks now, don't worry about it. If you don't believe it, it's absolutely fine. Because in the end, this is the only moment we have. And for me to understand myself and to understand how I wanted to be in each and every moment, I went on that journey and I wanted information like that. And I found that information helpful. But if information comes that is unhelpful, you can just throw it out and, look for the helpful stuff. I think everybody's journey is always so unique and different.
Yeah. And I'm sure people have loads of questions about how the soul contracts works, and what if I have a long name? What if I have a short name? What if I was adopted? And all of these, I can definitely look at these, because people say, well, what if I was adopted, and I had a different name, or I was given a different name? And you'll be surprised, even so, if you have a different name, then that's like the icing on the cake. So imagine your birth name is like the cake, and then you have a different name for whatever reason. Some people it's maybe because they're adopted, some people it's because they then get married, for example, or they change their name because they feel that they need to. That's like a layer of icing on the cake. And what's fascinating is when I was married, and for those, it wasn't very long, for those 3-4 years, I did my chart. And what it said in my chart and what happened during those 4 years was on point. It was absolutely hilarious. And it was around, the travel that I was doing and the growth that was happening in my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, you couldn't make it up. It was amazing. And yeah, so if people have more questions, please do, come and connect with me. What you're speaking about in relation to people, thinking, oh, this has gone a bit off track into, like talking about reincarnation things. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was speaking to someone the other day and we were talking about intuition, and you cannot, in a scientific sense, prove intuition. However, a lot of scientists use intuition. And, this idea of soul, this idea of intuition, these things, maybe we cannot prove them through the form of science. But if we actually look into science deeply, science is where we're exploring what is, and then the next person comes along and says, no, it's not like that, it's actually like this. So we're always disproving each other. So it's actually not something that's set in stone. It's an exploration of what is, that is constantly changing. The world is round, and then the world is flat, and the world is flat, and now the world is round again. And people get killed for it.
Yeah.
Those beliefs that they have. I'm not saying whether it's flat or round. I know people that believe in both. What I am saying is that, maybe there's stuff out there that is true, that is not provable. In fact, I'm restudying some. I studied Kabbalah many years ago, and I've got back into it recently. And they say that 95 to 99% of what is the universe is unseeable, unknown, and we live in the 1% or the 5%, you know. And so how do we get into that 99%? That is where our potential is. And so when we go in and we explore things like the soul and the intuition, that's where the magic happens, and the synchronicities or coincidences, or whatever you want to call them. You know, things happen that they're quite ordinary in a way, but they're also very magical when you tune into those things, because that's where our potential is, I believe.
I'm sure you have some stories about that in terms of that transformation from your being married and into the work that you're currently doing. Do you have anything that you're willing to share with us about your intuition journey?
Yeah, wow, loads probably. So, well, I'll give you a small one. It was about, for example, when I was looking for a house to stay. So I was living in Spain at one point, and I was looking for a house, and I had to move out of where I was staying, and it was fairly urgent, and I had I had no idea if I was going to find anywhere, if it was going to be, you know, for the price that I wanted. And I was feeling the pressure of having to do something. I don't know if you've ever had this where, you know, you're feeling the pressure of having to earn certain money, or you're having the pressure of, you know, needing to get a home to live in, or you're having the pressure of whatever it is for you. And that pressure is causing fear and anxiety. And in those moments, what we really need to do is step into trust and love. And so I was in this space of pressure that I was feeling about having to get somewhere to live. And I was reminded by certain people in my life about coming back into love and trust. And my mum had recently said something to me. She's always been there on this personal development, self mastery journey with me. And she was reminding me, you know, act as if. So in these cases, you need to act as if it's already happened. And so I remember I had to go home to England from Spain because it was Christmas. I wanted to go home, but I still hadn't found anywhere. And so I'd gone home and I was helping my mum with some online Christmas shopping. And I saw these two little elephant decoration candle holders. And I was like, right, I'm going to buy those for my new home. Even though I don't have my home yet, I'm going to act as if I'm going to buy those for my new home. And I'm looking at them now. They're just sat over there on the side. And so I got them, and I'd only taken hand luggage to go home. And these two elephants arrived with all the other Christmas shopping, and they were solid stone of some kind, really heavy. I was like, oh gosh. So I had to pack them into my hand luggage, but they fit luckily. And headed off back to Spain, and then got the message to go and see a property, and it was fantastic. And I was like, yes, I'll take it. And so it was the day that I was going to sign, you know, the documents, and they pulled out. And I was like, what? And again, that fear, that anxiety was right then. I was like, no, step back. This is meant to happen for some reason. This is meant to happen. This is what I said to someone who was made redundant. You know, it's like the universe is stepping in, because that's not for your highest good. There is something better. And then it wasn't long after, on a Sunday, I didn't even know that there's this lady who was like an estate agent, worked on a Sunday. She called me and she said, I've got this property. Do you want to come and see it today? I was like, today? It's a Sunday. She was like, yes, I've got this property. I went to go and see it, and it was so much better. And my landlord and my landlady in Spain became a bit like my Spanish mum and dad. They were so lovely. I was there for many years, and it was perfect. And it's that lesson of constantly stepping into love and trust, and knowing that God, universe, source, whatever this consciousness is that is within everything, everything is here for our highest good. And so just keep stepping into that. And sometimes things don't happen or things end because maybe we didn't make the move when we knew we should have done, or, you know, in some way it's for a reason. And we may not ever know that reason, but we need to step back into trust and love. And then that's when we hold that space for whatever needs to come in, comes in.
Well, I'm so excited to share this episode. Juliette, I just feel a beautiful energy from you as well. To stay woo-woo for the end of the episode. I feel something. But I really believe that each and every one of us has some deep kind of connection to our own internal wisdom. And there is value in each of us. And no matter what we've done or where we've been or what we've gone through, we can come through the other side because we can make a different choice. And that when we start making even slightly different choices, that changes the trajectory of our whole life from then on. So, and I'm building on something like a simple habit, like I love you, I love you, I love you in the mirror. I think that could be a transformational thing for anyone.
Yes, it definitely is.
Is there anything
Yeah.
else you'd like to say to the listeners before we finish up today?
I would like to say, move your body. You know, we did go woo woo, and we are these spiritual beings in a human experience, I believe personally. And I had someone on my podcast actually recently, and we were speaking how now is the time, even more so now, we need to come into our body. And, you know, yes, I believe we have a soul. Yes, I am connected to all that is, and I'm in this body. And so to really ground ourselves within this body, to feel your feet on the floor, I don't know if you've ever done any shaking, but you feel your feet on the floor, you bend your knees and you just let your body kind of shake heavy downwards. And, you know, you check out it's probably on YouTube or somewhere, and move your hips. Your hips are all about creativity and moving forward in life. Whether it's, you know, a gym, it doesn't have to be a gym, whether it's walking in nature, whether it's going to a yoga class or a Pilates class, or, you know, simply going to Five Rhythms dance. There's loads of alternative, you know, dance classes out there. Or even if it's in your own lounge or with your family, play music that inspires you, that has beautiful words, and move your body and let your body flow. This life that we are living, I often say this is my work of art, and I am the painter, and this is the body that is painting this journey. So yeah, so get moving and be in your body, and feel your feet on the ground. Take off your shoes and stand on the grass and be a tree.
Tree pose. We looked that one up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Juliette. It's been an absolute pleasure. I just love speaking with you. And I'm sure that anyone who's been listening, that you've enjoyed this episode. This is the Resonate podcast with Aideen, and I would love to hear from any of you what you think of today's session. Juliette has a wonderful website. You can connect with her about her soul reading, contract reading. And also, she has a wonderful podcast. And I'm very honored that I was one of your supporters when you were getting that set up. And I just wanted to encourage everybody to check you, to find out more about you and find you on LinkedIn or find your website and start watching what you're doing, because you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of amazing resources to help people with.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everybody. Goodbye.